Hi, I'm Christopher Hein, and today we're going to be talking about the Osekomi Waza. So this is a continuation of our Kumiuchi series, so we're covering all the pieces of Kumiuchi. Remember, Kumiuchi means struggle in Aikido. Ideally, Kumiuchi is something we would like to never do. So we would like to never have to use any of these things. If we had really good Aiki, we wouldn't have to do any of this stuff. But this is stuff we're doing when our Aiki is starting to fail. So Osekomi Waza is something that if you've been following my approach to Aikido, you might say, why would you even put Osekomi Waza in your Aikido? Because it's just pinning techniques, and pinning techniques are domination techniques, and you, Christopher Hein, say that Aikido is not about dominating, it's about making accords. That is true, but there are times where we have to struggle. That's what the whole Kumiuchi is about, right? So if we could always make perfect Aiki, then we wouldn't have to have anything in the Kumiuchi, and Osekomi Waza is just an extension of that. I think the Osekomi Waza is in Aikido to teach you some very important things. It's one, how to deal with taking down an armed person, and two, and controlling that armed person also, and two, how to deal with pinning someone and there being other people around who could come and get you. So if other people could come to get you, how would we pin someone, right? So there might be times where you have to pin, you can't make the accord you want, and so you have to hold someone down and dominate them. But in Aikido, we always want to do it in a way with thought towards being autonomous. So I'm going to cover that stuff today. I'm going to show you all the different little ideas about pinning and all the different parts that come into pinning. I'm going to call Maya over here. We're going to go to work. Maya? All right, so let's talk about Osekomi Waza. To me, the Osekomi Waza fits really naturally in. I think a lot of people might say that that doesn't seem to fit my approach. And as I said in the teaser in the beginning, it's because Kumiuchi overall doesn't fit with the ideal Aikido situation. But like all good systems, it's built to deal with situations as they get worse and worse and worse. So meaning a bad system can only deal with when things go right? If they go wrong, then a bad system can't deal with that. A good system can deal with it going wrong and wrong again and wrong again and wrong again and wrong again. That's what a system does, is it builds in redundancies that help you get back to where you want to be. The difference in my approach to Aikido and maybe how it's commonly seen is the goal. In my idea of Aikido, the goal is to make accord, is to peacefully resolve the situation. Now, there might have to be punching and kicking and holding and all kinds of stuff to resolve the situation, but the idea is to get a situation that's good for both of us, as good as it can possibly be. I believe other systems of Aikido, the idea is a really simple idea, which is to dominate the other person. And that's kind of a caveman way of looking at things, in my opinion, which is like, if I crush the other person, they'll have to do what I say, and that's that. Now, the unrealistic way of looking at the world, in my opinion, is that everything's butterflies and rainbows and that everyone's going to want to get along and everything's great. Now that I've given you a philosophical breakdown, let's talk about Osekomi Waza. And that's relevant because Osekomi Waza is dominating someone. It's holding someone down. I think one important thing to understand with all the Aikido takedown things, and this is one of the big things as I've begun to release this material, people have argued with me about and said like, oh, the takedowns in Aikido are dumb. So why would you even need those pins? Because the takedowns are so bad, they're never going to work. Now, I do agree that the takedowns in Aikido are not the best takedowns you could use ever, period. Meaning, if I just want to take Maya down, shooting to her legs, or getting her body tied up and throwing her over, or tripping her are the best ways to get her to go down to the ground. Those are the best ways to go down to the ground. The problem is in Aikido, one, we have to deal with our historical context, and it's also our modern context, which is if she had a knife in her hand and I shoot any kind of double leg, she's going to be cutting and stabbing at me, right? So that's not going to work. And most of the time that I'm working to get into my good clinch position, right? So bit by bit, as I'm trying to get into a good clinch position, she's cutting and stabbing me the whole time while I'm trying to get into these throw positions that I'm getting into, right? So that's bad. And then two, with multiple attackers, most of the high success takedown, so even if I manage to get her hand so she can't stab me anymore, this kind of throw takes a long time to set up. And all that time that I'm working from this position, one of her friends is coming to get me. So with multiple attackers, those kinds of takedowns won't work either. So what Aikido is teaching us to do is to deal with situations and the takedowns that we could possibly use for multiple attackers and for armed people, right? So meaning, Aikido, I'm going to work, of course, off the idea of her coming in to attack me, and that's what's going to set up my takedown positions, right? Is her attacking me and trying to cover that distance, not me covering the distance to her, but her trying to cover the distance to me. And all of those are done in a way that I can abate those. So if I use that Rokyo takedown that we just saw right now, so she comes in and I set up with a Rokyo takedown. Now the second her friend comes, I can bail out of that Rokyo takedown and I'm in good position, right? So that also it deals with multiple attackers. So all of the Aikido takedowns are not the best possible takedowns on earth. However, they are the best takedowns for situations with multiple attackers and weapons being involved. Those situations require different kinds of takedowns, and that's what these are. So for takedowns overall, are they lower percentage? Yes, they're definitely lower percentage. For takedowns involving weapons and multiple attackers, they are the highest percentage takedowns you're going to have, right? Or at least that I've experienced so far. There might be some stuff out there I haven't seen, absolutely, but in my 20 years of Aikido and sparring and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and other martial arts, these are the highest percentage. I know that also because these same takedowns and pins are used in other martial arts involving multiple attackers and weapons, right? So it's not like Aikido has the corner market on this stuff. This stuff's available in other places as well. So that's what those things are all about. So the takedowns are one of the big criticisms you'll see. They're not very good. Well, they're not very good for a one-on-one unarmed situation, particularly if there's a referee there to judge if the takedown was good or not. They are the best takedowns you're going to get for crummy situations where they're armed, you're armed, or you're both armed, and there's multiple attackers, right? So that's the deal with that. Okay, then the next thing to understand is if you are a physically super capable person, you could take someone down in any way you want, right? So, Maya's probably still a bit of a challenge, but, if Maya was, maybe about 30 pounds smaller and about 5 years less trained, then I could probably do anything I want to her to get her down, right? So I could do anything I want to her to get her down. So why do you need a super hyped up high percentage takedown technique for someone that you could take down with anything, If she was that small, I could probably grab her by the lapels and just push her down to the ground. She's not going to let me show you that right now, but as I said, that would be a smaller, less skilled Maya. But if I just grab her by the lapels and I could smash her down on the ground, then I could do any takedown I want. So I don't need double leg takedowns or really good hip tosses or anything like that, right? What I need is the most advantageous takedowns for me. So if Maya's a 10-year-old and she's got a knife and she's threatening other 10-year-olds, what kind of takedowns do I need? The kind of takedowns that you'll find in Aikido. So if I am the physically dominant person, these are the best because every takedown is going to be high percentage as far as getting the takedown goes, but these ones will keep me in the safest, best position while I make my takedowns. So that's why these exist. So if someone's critical of these ideas of takedowns, they're right partially, but they're wrong partially, and there's another part that they need to understand in order to get the full thing. What are the Aikido takedowns? For the most part, aside from the throws, right? So shionage is a way you can take someone down. Kokinage is a way you can take down someone. Irimi nage. So all the nage waza, anything that says otoshi on it, sumi otoshi, mai otoshi, because otoshi means to drop. Those things can all be used to take someone down. So all of the nage waza and the hinko nage waza, which are a lot of the otoshis, can be used to take someone down. Now, other than that, udeose is Aikido's prime takedown method, and it's probably the best when we're talking about our context as far as just getting the takedown. Now, an udeose looks like an ikkyo most of the time, although a ton of things can be happening. So udeose just means arm takedown, right? So this is my udeose position right here. That's being done with an ikkyo. If I roll her elbow to a locked position, that now would be done with a rokyo. If I emphasize the gokyo in there, that becomes a gokyo, right? If I emphasize the shoulder, that's a kata otoshi, right? So that shoulder gets smashed down into the ground, that's kata otoshi. You can do variations of kaiten nage where you wrap up and drop down like this. But this is all udeose, arm position. This can also be done gyaku, right? So our sankyo takedown is just a gyaku udeose. So I'm on the opposite side of her body, but it's still udeose. The udeose is super useful because it isolates that hand, and it isolates it for one of two reasons. They're both useful for our context. One is she had a knife in that, actually let me maybe switch to that hand. She had a knife in that hand, so there's my udeose, here's my udeose, here's variations on my udeose, right? So all those things are important because she had a weapon, or if I had a weapon and she's grabbing me, now she won't let go, right? So I'm trying to take her down while she's holding me. So I'm trying all those same methods while she's holding me. So if I'm armed or if she's armed, these kind of takedowns, the Ude-Ose takedown, are going to be super, super useful, and you're going to use them a lot, right? So they're highly functional for our system. Ude-Ose comes in many flavors, right? So you can do a Gokyo, you can do a Rokyo, you can do an Ikkyo, you can do a Sankyo, you can do a Nikkyo. There's lots of little things we can add into that Ude-Ose. You can do it from the regular side, or you can do Gyaku, right? So you can do either one of those. Okay, now, once we're on the ground, we have one decision to make, which is she face up or face down? Let me show you what I mean by that. So this is Maya face down, or the other is Maya face up. So we've gotten a takedown, and Maya's either face up or face down. Now in Aikido, we won't even mess with her if she's face up. We don't want to try to pin or do anything else. There's one exception. Well, it depends on the style of Aikido you study. In my approach, there's one exception we have, which is Juji Nage, and there's a special reason for that Juji Nage exception. But other than that, we don't want to mess with it. So what we want to do is get Dogaishi, so her body to turn over. We want to get her body to turn over. Now that's done from two basic ideas. Either I can have gyakute, and that's because if we were standing, I would be holding her gyakute, right? You can see my right hand is grabbing her left hand, that's gyakute. If we're doing that, we're going to step over this head, so we want to clear the head here, and then as we do that, we're going to pull her around, and we're going to set her up, and I flipped her body over, and we got her face down. Or I'm going to be katate dori when I do it. And you can see now my left hand is grabbing her left hand. When we're katate, we're going to do a very, very similar procedure, except as we come around, we're going to be gyaku when we're done, right? We're going to be opposite side, okay? Now, the reason we do that is because we're assuming she's armed, right? So let's say that's in her belt, because otherwise that's not going to work in a second. Okay, now maybe there's a weapon in this hand, or maybe she's holding my armed hand, right? And as I'm dealing with this hand, so I'm going to try to pin her, what she does is she goes for that knife with the other hand, and now I got to deal with this knife, right? So that's a real problem for me because there's a weapon. So by assuming there's a weapon, what all the Dogaishi does is as she goes to get that weapon, that's fine. She can have that weapon, and she comes to try to get me. That's fine. It's a really weird way to do it. I'll take away that, and there's the easy way to do it. And we get all these classic pins that you would see in something like Daitoryu, right? So once she's on the ground, we have one decision to make, or one thing to understand. Is she face up or face down? If she's face up, we want to get Dogaishi. Now, there are a few ways to get it. The main ways are katate and gyakute. I can involve using her arm or her wrist to bring her around, right? So I can use that. Lots of different styles have little clever ways that they can bring her down, right? So I can put pressure against her elbow to bring her over. I can do all kinds of things. Sorry, that's mean. I can do pressure against her shoulder. I can do pressure against her wrist to get her to want to turn over. But the reason we want her to turn over is because in that she can't do as much damage to me, and I can see what's coming. So I don't want to even try to pin her unless she's down. So now in jiu-jitsu, when she gets like this, I would just jump on top of her, right? Or already be on top of her, because we're going to grapple around like that. However, in an armed situation, and there's a weapon I don't know about, maybe she steals my weapon, that's no good. So before I even try to deal with her pinning, I'm going to get Dogaishi. I'm going to turn her over. The exception that I said in my school, and different schools have different exceptions, is Juji Nage, which the Juji Nage pin looks like this, and you can guess why this is an okay position, because it doesn't matter if she had a knife in this hand. Go ahead and stab me good. Yep, good job. Okay, if she had a knife in this hand, go ahead and stab me good. Yep. Okay, so with the Juji Nage, we're accounting for both arms, and it's done in the takedown, so we can accept that. Okay, now, once she's on the ground, go ahead and give me a Dogaishi, like magic. Look at this, Aiki. Oh, I did it. Okay. All right. Now, once we have her here on the ground like this, we're really either going to be in this position or the opposite position of this, right? So one of these two positions is what we're going to have. From here, our first goal is to get that shoulder locked down onto the ground. Now, once her shoulder's locked down onto the ground, if she tries to get up, it's really, really difficult from here because of shoulder. Now, let's say she could get up, right? So let's say she could pull off. There, I have all the time in the world to escape that position, which again, in our multiple attacker context, is what we're looking for, right? So in this situation, she was able to resist me. I'm easily able to escape. Also from these positions, if I don't already have a weapon, I can get to a weapon now, and I can use a weapon. So if she's really dangerous and I know I'm not going to hold her, I can get to a weapon. This is a lot of what I believe you're seeing in O-sensei when he's like this, right? So you see lots of pins where O-sensei is doing this kind of number, right? He's really got the hand over. And that's because if I had a weapon and you struggle, I'm going to stab you. My pin doesn't have to be that secure because my weapon is helping to secure you. From this, We have lots of ideas. I've talked about these a little bit in the other series, but I can emphasize locking that elbow down to the mat right now. I can emphasize the wrist right here. I can emphasize the shoulder. So I can use all of those things in order to help me control her once she's on the ground. Okay, so the takedowns are takedowns that involve multiple attackers and weapons. That's why we take down the way we do. Those are not the highest percentage takedowns overall, but they're the highest percentage for the context we're talking about. Once they're on the ground, we try to get them to be belly down. If we can't get them belly down, we abate, right? We get out of there and we use our weapon that we have to use, right? They're already in a vulnerable position. But we're assuming either A, I'm so strong and capable of holding them down, or B, they're giving in to me and letting me do what I want because they're scared of what I might possibly do to them. Either of those situations, if they start to come back at me, I just abate that situation, right? So I just get out of there, boom, and I use my weapon. Once she's face down, I go in to control and isolate the arm. So by holding that arm out, that's probably the weapon arm, I'm now isolating it from the rest of the body. The only other choice she'll have is to reach underneath and get another weapon. I will see that weapon come out way in advance and be able to deal with that as it arises, right? So that's the Osei Komiwaza. That's an overview of how it works and why it works the way it does. In my opinion, it's a very important part of Aikido, although it can be a confusing thing to understand. Remember in Aikido, at least as my approach says it, the goal is always to get back to making a cord. So the pin is used as a way to make a cord. I now don't have to cut this 5-year-old down or shoot him or whatever else. I can hold them until help arrives and we can all take care of that kid in a very easy and gentle way. You might need to use things like that if you're in a physically dominant position, if you're dealing with someone who's got mental capacity problems or someone who's younger or someone who's older or all kinds of things. People get freaked out and you might need to control that person but not do it in a way that involves elbowing them in the nose and breaking their face. The other side of that is, I got lucky in a situation with a really dangerous person and I was able to get them down. I'm going to hold them tentatively because that's the best option I have right now, but if they give me too much resistance, I'm going to get out of there and go back to my weapon platform because that's what I have to do. So that's the way Aikido pinning techniques are built. I'm Christopher Hein. This is Maya Solano McDaniel. And again, the ghost is behind the camera. Josh got a cold. I think it's just a cold, but he's scared that it might be COVID, so he's doing the right thing and he stayed home. He's getting a test. So hopefully we'll have him back here with us really, really soon. Thanks for watching.